The plasma cuffs sparked against Princess Zara's wrists as she knelt in the center of the Terran throne room, her silver scales dulled by weeks of captivity. The other rescued alien royals, Princess Nyx of the Void Reaches and Princess Kira of the Crystal Dominion, flanked her on either side, their own restraints humming with lethal energy. Queen Helena sat motionless on the obsidian throne, her pale hands gripping the armrests as she studied the three prisoners. The human resistance had torn apart half the galaxy to free them from the Syndicate's breeding programs, where alien nobility were forced to produce hybrid offspring for slave armies. Now these princesses knelt before Earth's most feared ruler, and the silence stretched like a blade. "Remove their restraints," Helena commanded. Captain Torres stepped forward, his hand hovering over his sidearm. "Your Majesty, protocol dictates. Remove them. Now." The restraints fell away with metallic clangs that echoed through the vast chamber. Zara rubbed her wrists, confusion flickering across her reptilian features. Beside her, Nyx's shadow-wreathed form seemed to waver, while Kira's crystalline skin caught the harsh throne room lights. Helena descended the steps slowly, her military boots clicking against marble. She stopped 3 feet from Zara and knelt, bringing herself to eye level with the alien princess. "Do you remember the lullaby?" Helena whispered. "The one about the silver moon and the dancing stars?" Zara's golden eyes widened. Her mouth opened, then closed. A sound escaped her throat, half sob, half gasp. Helena's voice cracked as she continued the melody. "When darkness falls and hope seems lost, the silver moon will guide you home, mother." Zara's words shattered the silence like breaking glass. The queen's composure crumbled. She reached out with trembling fingers to touch Zara's scaled cheek. "My daughter. My precious girl." Captain Torres took a step back, his weapon forgotten. The other guards exchanged bewildered glances, their training offering no protocol for this moment. Helena turned to Nyx, whose form had solidified in shock. "You were 3 when they took you. You used to hide in my shadow during thunderstorms." Nyx's ethereal voice wavered. You sang to me in the dark places. When the thunder roars and lightning burns, Mama's shadow keeps you safe," Helena sang softly. Kira's crystalline form began to resonate, a harmonic frequency that filled the throne room with haunting music. "The crystal song," she whispered. "You taught me the crystal song." Helena nodded, tears streaming down her face. "When the world grows cold and colors fade, your crystal heart will warm the way." The 3 princesses stared at her, 20 years of separation and genetic modification unable to completely erase the bond between mother and children. Zara was the first to move, launching herself into Helena's arms. Nyx flowed forward like living shadow, wrapping around both of them. Kira's approach shattered the marble beneath her feet, but her crystalline arms enclosed her family with infinite gentleness. Captain Torres lowered his weapon completely. "My God," he breathed. "The hybrid experiments. They weren't using random alien DNA." Helena looked up at him over her daughters' heads, her eyes blazing with cold fury. "The Syndicate took my children when they were babies. They've spent 20 years turning them into weapons against their own mother." "But how?" Torres asked. "The genetic modifications, the physical changes, adaptation protocols," Zara said, her voice muffled against Helena's shoulder. "They forced our bodies to change to survive different environments, but they couldn't change what's inside." Nyx pulled back slightly, her shadow form rippling with emotion. "They told us you were dead. That Earth's queen was a tyrant who would kill us on sight." "They wanted us to hate you," Kira added, her crystalline voice ringing like bells. "To lead their armies against humanity with personal vengeance." Helena's jaw tightened. "Instead, the Resistance found you first. Because you never stopped looking," Torres realized. "Every raid, every rescue mission, you were searching for them." The Queen stood slowly, helping her daughters to their feet. Despite their alien appearances, something fundamental in their postures mirrored hers. The way they held their heads, the set of their shoulders, genetics that no modification could completely erase. "The war isn't over," Helena said, her voice regaining its steel. "The Syndicate still has thousands of hybrid children, still runs their breeding programs." "Then we finish what you started," Zara said, her golden eyes hardening. "They made us into weapons. Time to turn those weapons against them. Nyx's form darkened, shadows gathering around her like living armor. I've seen their installations from the inside. I know their weaknesses. Kira's crystalline skin began to glow with inner light. Their genetic labs, their research facilities. I can resonate with their crystal matrices. Shatter them from within. Helena looked at each of her daughters in turn, seeing past their modified forms to the children she'd lost. But these weren't helpless babies anymore. They were warriors, shaped by 20 years of survival and struggle. Together? She asked. Together, they answered in unison. Captain Torres holstered his weapon and stepped forward. What are your orders, Your Majesty? Helena's smile was sharp as a blade. Prepare the fleet. We're going to bring every stolen child home. The throne room erupted into activity as alerts sounded throughout the palace. Earth's war machine began to move, but now it fought not just for humanity's survival, it fought for family. The Syndicate had made a fatal error. They'd turned the Queen's children into the perfect weapons to destroy them. In the depths of space, the Syndicate's fortress worlds had no idea that their most carefully crafted weapons were about to come home. Within hours, the combined fleets of the human resistance launched from Earth's orbital shipyards. Helena stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Vengeance, with her 3 daughters beside her. The sight of them together sent ripples through the crew, alien and human alike. Target acquired, the navigation officer reported. Syndicate Research Station Gamma 7. Confirmed hybrid holding facility. Helena nodded. Zara, can you interface with their security systems? Her reptilian daughter moved to the central console, her scaled fingers dancing across the controls with inhuman speed. Their encryption is based on Draknari neural patterns. They never expected one of their test subjects to turn it against them. The station's defenses went dark. One by one, automated turrets powering down as Zara rewrote their targeting parameters. On the main screen, the massive research facility hung like a steel tumor against the stars. Life signs? Helena asked. 3,000 hybrid children, Nyx reported, her shadow form interfacing directly with the ship's sensors. Ages 3 to 16. They're keeping them in conditioning pods. Kira pressed her crystalline palm against the bulkhead, and harmonic vibrations traveled through the ship's structure. I can feel their fear, their confusion. They don't understand what's happening to them. Helena's hands clenched at the tactical display. 20 years ago, that could have been her daughters in those pods. Marine deployment in 30 seconds. Priority is child extraction. Syndicate personnel are secondary targets. The assault was swift and surgical. Human Marines poured through compromised airlocks while Zara paralyzed the station's internal defenses. Nyx flowed through ventilation systems, her shadow form allowing her to scout ahead and neutralize guards without triggering alarms. Kira remained on the ship, her crystalline resonance disrupting the conditioning equipment from afar. Resistance in Section C, came Torres' voice over the comm. They're trying to execute the subjects rather than lose them. Helena's vision went red. Nyx! Get there now! Her shadow daughter's form vanished from the bridge, reappearing in Section C through the security feed. Darkness flooded the corridors as she moved like liquid night, striking down Syndicate soldiers before they could reach the pods. Children secured, Torres reported moments later. But, Your Majesty, you need to see this. Helena transported directly to the research level, materializing in a corridor lined with observation windows. Behind the reinforced glass, thousands of children floated in biotanks, their bodies showing various stages of genetic modification. Some had grown scales, others sprouted additional limbs or sensory organs. Dear God, she whispered. It's not random, Zara said, having followed her mother to the facility. Look at the data pads. They're documenting bloodlines, creating specific genetic combinations for tactical purposes. Helena picked up one of the research tablets, her face growing pale as she read. They're not just stealing children. They're breeding specific traits. Enhanced strength, telepathic abilities, environmental adaptation. They're building a master race. Nyx materialized beside them, her form solidifying as rage took hold. Using our stolen genetics as the foundation, Kira's voice echoed through the ship's comm system. Mother, you need to see the main lab. Now. They moved deeper into the station, past rows of empty conditioning chambers and genetic manipulation equipment. The main laboratory was a cathedral of science gone wrong, its central display showing a three-dimensional map of the galaxy marked with thousands of red dots. Each dot is a facility like this one, Torres explained. Intelligence estimates over 2 million hybrid children in various stages of development. Helena stared at the display, the scope of the Syndicate's operation finally becoming clear. They're not building an army, they're replacing entire populations. There's more. Zara had interfaced with the main computer. Project Genesis. They're planning to release a genetic virus that will force baseline humans to undergo the same modifications, convert the entire species, or eliminate those who resist. When? Helena's voice was deadly quiet. 72 hours. They're preparing to deploy from their primary research world, Kepler Station. The Queen turned to look at her daughters, seeing for the first time the full horror of what the Syndicate had done, not just to her family, but to millions of others. The children in these pods weren't weapons. They were victims, stolen and twisted into something they never chose to become. We can't save them all, she said finally. Not in 72 hours. No, Nix agreed. But we can make sure no more are taken. Kira's crystalline form brightened with deadly resolve. Kepler Station has a quantum crystal core. If I can reach it, resonate at the right frequency, you destroy the entire facility, Helena realized, along with yourself. Better than letting it continue. Helena looked at each of her daughters, Zara with her reptilian grace, Nyx wreathed in living shadow, Kira glowing like a living star. They were everything the Syndicate had spent decades creating, and everything it feared. There's another way, she said slowly. We don't destroy their research. We take control of it. What do you mean? Torres asked. Helena's smile was cold as space. They want to play God with genetics? Fine. Let's show them what real gods can do. She activated her command comm, broadcasting on all resistance frequencies. All fleet units converge on Kepler Station. We're not just stopping Project Genesis, we're reversing it. The liberation of the research station had been just the beginning. Now came the real test. Could they turn the Syndicate's own weapons against them? As the Vengeance jumped to hyperspace, Helena stood with her daughters on the observation deck, watching the stars streak past. In 72 hours, they would either save 2 million children or watch the galaxy fall to genetic tyranny. But looking at her daughters, her living proof that love could survive even the cruelest modifications, she knew which outcome she would fight for. The Kepler Station hung in the void like a mechanical moon, its surface bristling with defense platforms and docking bays that could swallow entire fleets. Helena watched the tactical display as her combined forces approached the Syndicate's primary research facility, knowing that everything, not just the war, but the future of genetic freedom, hinged on the next few hours. Defensive screen analysis complete, Zara reported from her position at the tactical station. They have a rotating graviton shield that cycles every 18 seconds. Window for penetration lasts exactly 2.3 seconds. Their fighter squadrons are launching, Torres added. 500 hybrid pilots, enhanced reflexes, and battle conditioning. They're not going to go down easy. Helena nodded grimly. The Syndicate's hybrid pilots were their own children, stolen and conditioned to fight their birth parents. Every shot fired would be aimed at family. Nyx, can you infiltrate their communications? Helena asked. Her shadow daughter flowed to the communications array, merging with the ship's systems, broadcasting on all Syndicate frequencies now. Helena activated the ship-wide comm, her voice carrying to every vessel in both fleets. Attention, Syndicate forces! I am Queen Helena of Earth! The hybrid pilots you're sending against us are not your weapons. They are stolen children. To the pilots themselves, you have families who never stopped searching for you. You have homes waiting for you. This doesn't have to end in blood. The enemy formation wavered slightly, some pilots breaking from attack vectors, but the majority continued their approach, conditioning overpowering instinct. They can't hear us, Kira said sadly. The neural suppressors won't let them process familial concepts. Helena's jaw tightened. Then we break the suppressors. Mother, that's impossible from this distance, Zara protested. Not if we get close enough. Helena turned to Captain Torres. "Prepare a boarding shuttle. I'm going to the station." "Your Majesty, that's suicide," Torres said flatly. "Even if you survive the approach, their internal defenses won't expect their primary target to walk through the front door." Helena's eyes blazed with determination. "Zara, I need you to create a corridor through their shields. Nix, map their internal structure. Kira, I'm coming with you." All three daughters said simultaneously, "Absolutely not. I won't risk." "You can't do this alone," Zara interrupted. "The genetic locks on their systems require hybrid DNA to access. You need us." Nix stepped forward, her shadow form rippling with emotion. "We've spent 20 years as their prisoners. Time to be your daughters instead." Before Helena could object, alarms screamed through the ship. On the main display, Kepler Station's surface erupted with weapon fire, not at the attacking fleet, but at something else. "What are they shooting at?" Torres demanded. Zara's fingers flew over her console. "Internal rebellion. The hybrid children in their conditioning centers are awakening. Somehow their neural suppressors are failing." "How is that possible?" Kira's crystalline form brightened with sudden understanding. "The resonance frequency from the station we liberated. I used it to disrupt their conditioning equipment, but crystal harmonics can propagate through quantum tunnels. Every station connected to their network. The children are waking up," Helena breathed. "All of them. Across the entire network." On the tactical display, red indicators began flashing at Syndicate facilities throughout the sector. Internal security alerts, containment breaches, genetic conditioning failures cascading across their entire infrastructure. "This is our chance," Helena said. "Torres, take us in. Full attack speed." The Vengeance dove toward Kepler Station as hybrid fighters swarmed around them. But something had changed. Many of the pilots were no longer firing. Some were actively attacking other Syndicate ships, their awakening minds rejecting years of conditioning. "Docking Bay 7 is opening," Nix reported. "Someone's helping us from inside." They landed hard in the station's main bay, finding themselves face-to-face with a group of adolescent hybrids who had clearly just broken out of containment. Their leader, a girl with moth-like wings and compound eyes, stepped forward. "Are you the Earth Queen?" she asked in a voice like wind chimes. "I am. My name is Luna. These are my siblings." She gestured to the others, children with scales, fur, crystalline growths, and features that defied classification. "We remember now. Pieces of before. Will you take us home?" Helena knelt to Luna's eye level, seeing past the modifications to the child beneath. "Every single one of you. I promise." "The Genesis protocol is in the central lab," Luna said. "But there are guards and the research staff." "Leave them to us," Zara said firmly. They moved through corridors filled with chaos as hybrid children throughout the station rebelled against their captors. Helena watched in amazement as siblings found each other, as family bonds reasserted themselves despite genetic modification and years of separation. The central laboratory was a fortress within the station, its blast doors sealed and automated defenses active. But Nix flowed through the ventilation system while Zara hacked the security grid and Kira shattered the reinforced barriers with focused resonance. Inside, they found Dr. Marcus Vane, the Syndicate's chief geneticist, frantically working at a control console. "You're too late," he snarled without looking up. "The Genesis virus is already in distribution. In 6 hours, every human world will be infected. Your precious baseline humanity will be extinct within a generation." Helena drew her sidearm. "Shut it down." "I can't. Quantum lock to my biometric signature. If I die, they activate automatically." Vane finally turned, revealing a face more machine than man, cybernetic implants covering half his skull. "You have no choice but to let this complete." "Actually, we do," Zara said quietly. She moved to a secondary console, her scaled fingers interfacing with the quantum processing cores. "The genetic locks aren't just coded to your DNA, they're coded to hybrid DNA. Any sufficiently complex genetic pattern can override them." Vane's expression shifted from smugness to fear. "That's impossible. The security protocols were designed by people who thought hybrids were just modified humans," Nix interrupted, her shadow form engulfing the primary computers. They never considered that we might be something entirely new. Kira placed her crystalline hands on the Genesis device itself, her harmonic resonance interfacing directly with its quantum matrix. The virus isn't designed to modify genetics. It's designed to suppress them, force humanity into a single, controllable template. It's genocide dressed up as evolution, Helena realized. Exactly, Vane said proudly. No more genetic diversity. No more unpredictable mutations. Complete biological stability under syndicate control. Helena looked at her daughters, each one a unique blend of human and alien genetics, each one proof that diversity made life stronger, not weaker. Delete it all, she commanded. Working together, her daughters dismantled the Genesis protocol from within. Zara's reptilian nervous system processed quantum encryption faster than any computer. Nyx's shadow form could access systems without triggering defensive responses. Kira's crystalline structure resonated at the exact frequency needed to safely discharge the quantum storage matrices. No. Vane lunged for an emergency activation switch. Helena's shot took him center mass, but his cybernetic enhancements kept him moving. He reached the console, his hand slamming down on the Genesis trigger. Nothing happened. Impossible, he gasped, blood frothing from his lips. You're right, Helena said quietly. Your genetic signature was the key. But my daughters just rewrote the locks. The system now recognizes them as the authorized controllers. Vane's eyes widened in realization. The hybrid children, they're not weapons. They're the next step. Not replacing humanity, evolving it. Finally figured it out, Zara said. Too bad you chose the wrong side. As Vane died, alerts echoed through the station. Throughout the Syndicate's network, liberated hybrid children were shutting down research facilities, freeing their imprisoned siblings, and turning their creators' weapons against them. Helena activated her comm. All resistance units, this is the Queen. Project Genesis is terminated. Begin evacuation protocols for all hybrid children. We're bringing everyone home. Mother. Luna's voice came through the station's comm system. There are thousands of us here, tens of thousands throughout their network. Where will we all go? Helena looked at her daughters, seeing the hope and fear in their altered faces. The war was ending, but the peace would bring challenges they'd never considered. How do you integrate children who've been genetically modified to survive on alien worlds? How do you rebuild families torn apart by decades of separation? We'll figure it out, she said simply. Together, the human way, by adapting, surviving, and becoming stronger. As the resistance fleet began collecting the liberated children from across the Syndicate's network, Helena stood on the station's observation deck with Zara, Nyx, and Kira. Below them, the Genesis laboratory lay in ruins, its quantum computers dark and silent. It's over, Nyx said, though her voice held uncertainty. No, Helena corrected, putting her arms around her daughters. It's just beginning. Because humanity had won more than a war. They'd gained thousands of children who carried within their modified genetics the keys to surviving on worlds throughout the galaxy. The Syndicate had tried to create perfect weapons, but instead they'd created the ultimate expression of human adaptability. The species that had once been confined to a single world now had the biological diversity to thrive among the stars. And it all started with a mother who never stopped looking for her stolen children, and daughters who remembered that love could survive any modification. In the weeks following the fall of Kepler Station, Earth transformed. The orbital platforms that had once built warships now manufactured medical facilities and educational centers. The underground bunkers that had sheltered humanity during the darkest years of the war opened their doors to accept thousands of returning hybrid children. Helena stood in the Great Assembly Hall, watching as representatives from across human space gathered for the first post-war parliament. But these weren't just baseline humans anymore. Scaled delegates from the radiation zones sat beside crystalline speakers from the asteroid mining colonies. Shadow-touched representatives from the deep void shared tables with winged ambassadors from the high-gravity worlds. The integration reports are complicated, Captain Torres said, approaching with a stack of datapads. Some communities are adapting well, others are struggling with cultural differences. Show me the problem areas, Helena requested. Torres activated a holographic display showing Earth's continental masses. Red zones marked regions with significant integration difficulties. The agricultural zones are having the most trouble. The hybrid children who were modified for aquatic environments are having difficulty with land-based farming communities. Because the communities think they can't contribute, Helena realized. Exactly. There's been some unfortunate incidents. Fear-based reactions. Helena studied the data, her mind working through solutions. What do the children want to do? Well, that's the interesting part, Torres continued. The aquatic modified hybrids aren't interested in traditional farming. They're proposing underwater agriculture, ocean floor cultivation that could triple our food production. And the baseline farmers see that as a threat to their way of life. Yes, ma'am. Before Helena could respond, Zara entered the assembly hall, her scaled features bright with excitement. Mother, you need to see what Luna's group discovered. Luna had become something of a leader among the liberated hybrids, her moth-like modifications allowing her to communicate through pheromone signals with children who had similar insectoid traits. She'd organized them into research groups, each focusing on their unique biological advantages. What did they find? Helena asked. Follow me. They traveled to the lower levels of the palace, where temporary laboratories had been established for the hybrid children to explore their capabilities. Luna met them at the entrance to Lab 7, her compound eyes reflecting the overhead lights in rainbow patterns. Your Majesty, we've been studying the genetic modifications the Syndicate made to us, Luna began. At first, we thought they were random, designed just to make us better soldiers. They weren't? No, they were systematic. Each modification was designed to solve a specific environmental challenge. Luna led them to a massive display screen showing genetic charts. Look at this. The aquatic modifications weren't just for underwater combat. They allow for pressure equalization at depths no baseline human could survive. Deep ocean exploration, Helena murmured. The heat-resistant modifications can survive on worlds with surface temperatures over 300 degrees. The cold-adapted children can function in environments approaching absolute zero. Zara stepped forward, her features animated. They weren't trying to create super soldiers. They were trying to create a species that could live anywhere in the galaxy. But why? Helena asked. What would the Syndicate gain from that? Nyx materialized from the shadows, her form more solid than usual. I've been reviewing the data we captured from their facilities. The Syndicate wasn't just a criminal organization. They were preparing for something. Preparing for what? The Void Hunters, Nyx said quietly. Deep space monitoring stations have been detecting massive movement in the galactic arm beyond our territory. Something's coming. Something that makes the Syndicate look like children playing with toys. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Helena had heard rumors of the Void Hunters, ancient alien entities that consumed entire star systems. Most dismissed them as spacer legends, but if the Syndicate had been preparing for their arrival, how long do we have? Helena asked. Unknown. But based on the trajectory data, they'll reach the outer colonies within 5 years. Helena looked around at the assembled hybrid children, seeing them now not as victims of genetic experimentation, but as humanity's hope for survival. The Syndicate had stolen them, modified them, and tried to use them as weapons. But in doing so, they'd inadvertently created the exact biological diversity humans would need to survive the coming storm. Luna, how many of our children have modifications that would allow survival in extreme environments? Nearly all of us. The Syndicate's process was designed to push genetic adaptation to its absolute limits. Helena nodded slowly. Then we need to accelerate the integration process. Every human colony world needs to have hybrid populations, not as outsiders or specialists, but as full citizens. Some communities won't accept that, Torres warned. Then they'll die when the Void Hunters arrive, Helena said bluntly. The children aren't just our future, they're our survival. Over the following months, the integration process intensified. Hybrid children were paired with baseline human families, not just on Earth, but throughout the colonial networks. The aquatic modified children established underwater cities that became centers for deep ocean resource extraction. The crystalline children created communication networks that could function across interstellar distances without traditional technology. But the real breakthrough came when Kira made a discovery that changed everything. Mother, I need to show you something, Kira said, her crystalline form practically vibrating with excitement. The modifications the Syndicate made to us, they're not just environmental adaptations. They met in the orbital research station that had become Kira's primary laboratory. She led Helena to a chamber filled with resonating crystals, each one humming at different frequencies. I've been analyzing the genetic patterns across all the hybrid children, Kira explained. There are underlying structures that have nothing to do with environmental adaptation. What kind of structures? Quantum entanglement patterns. Our modified genetics create natural quantum fields that allow for instantaneous communication across any distance. Helena stared at the implications. A living quantum network. Exactly. When enough of us are distributed across the galaxy, we become a biological communications system that can't be disrupted by conventional means. The Syndicate wasn't just preparing us to survive on different worlds, Helena realized. They were creating the living infrastructure for galactic civilization, and they probably didn't even realize it. The quantum entanglement was an unintended side effect of the genetic modification process. Helena activated her comm, broadcasting to all human worlds. This is Queen Helena. Effective immediately, all colonies are to establish hybrid integration programs. This is not a request, it's a survival imperative. The response was mixed. Some worlds embraced the directive, recognizing the practical advantages of hybrid citizens. Others resisted, clinging to baseline human purity. But resistance became harder to maintain when the benefits became obvious. Worlds with hybrid populations reported massive improvements in resource extraction, environmental adaptation, and technological development. The quantum communication network allowed for real-time coordination across interstellar distances. Agricultural yields increased dramatically with hybrid innovations. Most importantly, when the first Void Hunter scouts appeared in the outer systems, it was the hybrid-populated worlds that detected them first and coordinated the defense response. Helena stood on the bridge of Earth's primary defense platform, watching as her daughters coordinated the resistance to humanity's greatest threat. Zara commanded the tactical networks with reptilian precision. Nyx gathered intelligence through shadow form infiltration of enemy systems. Kira maintained communication across battle lines through quantum resonance. But they weren't alone. Thousands of hybrid children, now grown into capable adults, stood at their posts throughout the human territories. Each one a living testament to the power of diversity, adaptation, and the refusal to surrender in the face of impossibility. Contact with the lead Void Hunter vessel, Torres reported. Open communications, Helena commanded. The main screen flickered to reveal something that defied description, a form that seemed to exist partially outside normal space-time, its voice echoing from dimensions beyond human perception. We are the Void Hunters. We consume worlds that resist our passage. Your species will submit or be eliminated, Helena smiled, looking at her daughters and the bridge crew of baseline humans and hybrids working seamlessly together. This is Queen Helena, speaking for all of humanity. We don't submit. We adapt. The Void Hunter's form shifted, something like confusion rippling through its dimensional presence. You cannot adapt to our consumption. No species has survived our passage. No baseline species, Helena corrected, but we're not baseline anymore. As if in response to her words, the quantum communication network activated. Across every human world, hybrid populations synchronized their genetic frequencies. The network became more than communication. It became a unified biological field that spanned the galaxy. For the first time in eons, the Void Hunters encountered something they couldn't simply consume. They found a species that had already begun evolving beyond the physical limitations that made consumption possible. The war that followed would last years. But humanity would survive it, as they had survived everything else, by changing, adapting, and becoming something their enemies never expected. And it all started with a mother who refused to abandon her stolen children.